Welcome back to JRG Guitars. Up today, another episode in the Explorer style build. Episode 1 had us unbox and talk about the plan for the guitar. Episode 2, we made some modifications to the neck and routed a hole for our 9-volt battery for the active pickups. And today is more prep work along the way to get us one step closer. Coming at ya! That's right, episode 3 is upon us. Today is a lot of prep work. We do some fret work. We take care of those fret ends. We make them nice. We make it so that this guitar will be extremely well playable once we have it all together. We do grain filling to the back of the neck, the headstock, the body. We do sanding. We do a lot of sanding, and we do some sanding sealer as well to get the body one step closer to where we can join the neck and body.
When two become one.
And that will be on this episode as well. We, in episode 2, modified the neck angle so that it would sit in there properly so we could have our action being able to dialed in properly. And today, we're going to get all the way to the end where we can set that baby together and then be ready to continue on with finish work. So we're going to dive right into it. But real quick, I'd ask if you're enjoying this type of content, if you're enjoying the series, to go ahead and hit that like button, press the subscribe button, and ring that bell for notifications so you can keep up with the progress and be notified when another video is coming out for you to hopefully consume and enjoy. But let's get right into it.
So here we go. We're going to start off with some fret work. First thing I wanted to do was protect the area where it's going to get glued in. So I tape off this whole area just to make sure I don't have any marring on it or get any sort of adhesive or paint or whatever I'm going to be using on it. So I protected it there. Then we're going to go ahead and flatten the neck as best we can. So I'm using my notched straight edge here and looking for any kind of bow in the neck, making a slight adjustment so that I know the wood portion of the fretboard is as flat as can be. I then take my file here. So this is a block that has an angled file on the edge, and it runs down the side and takes care of any bit of fret that's poking out the side just to make sure it's nice and won't catch on your hand. Then it's time for the end dressing. Now this is a specialized file that has a safe edge on it, and I'm able to go in and just kiss the edge of these frets, have to do each side of each fret and make them really nice and smooth. It's a tedious process because there are a lot of frets to do, and you just have to make sure you do a couple swipes and keep it clean.
Now I just take some steel wool and I really hit the edge and just try and smooth it out. So to get the tool marks off, I do a step process where I start here with my fret rubbers. I have a set of 5 which go on increasing coarseness. I start and I just work my way up until I get them into a shine, and then I'll buff them after that. And it does get rid of most of the tool marks to where they look nice. I then come in with my 3000 grit. And now they look very nice. Rinse and repeat 20 more times.
And now it's time for the beginning of the sanding process. So I'm starting here with a fairly coarse grit of around 220 and just sanding everything as much as I can, getting any kind of factory sealant that might have been on there off, and then just trying to get everything as smooth as I can, going from a 220 to a 320 up. And you can see I'm hitting the back and the front. I'll hit the sides, and I'll just try to sand everything down to get it as smooth as I can, and then I'm ready to do some grain filling. And this is my Aqua Coat grain fill, which has worked well for me in the past. It's sort of a waxy but not sticky substance. It goes on, it's water soluble, and I just spread it out there with like an old credit card type thing, and I just spread it on as thin as I can, and it dries pretty quick. So I hit the back and the front, and then on the sides I rub it in more with a cloth. But we apply it just to sort of fill in any of those low spots so that we can have as level a surface as we can as we go through the finishing process. So here at this point, I noticed that I had a small bit of damage in the neck. There was a dent in the wood. So I took a damp cloth there and hit with my soldering iron on top of this mark just to raise it up a bit and take that dent out. And of course, I'm cranking some Hair Nation in the background, and you can hear Vince Neil and the boys jamming on one off the Dr. Feelgood album. After we've successfully done that, it is now time for more grain filler. So here is the neck getting grain filled as well, the back of the neck and the headstock and such, all getting filled up in the same way I did on the body, just to have it be as sort of level as possible, and that will then get sanded out. So here I am on the headstock, just sort of smearing it on. It gets in those tuning peg holes, but then I just sort of clean all that out afterwards and make it nice. So here I am just spreading it on. And then now it's time for sanding sealer. So I let that dry, sanded down the grain filler, and then the sanding sealer gets wiped on the neck here and the headstock and the back of that, as well as the guitar body, all getting sealed up and sanded and then sealed up a couple of times.
Here is the body now with a few coats of sanding sealer on it. Lots of little bumps and ripples because I just wiped it on with a cloth. Those are going to all get sanded down to where I can then put finish on it. And interesting thing is, as you start to put that on and the wood darkens a little bit, and it really creates a contrast between the deeper portions of this grade on the veneer. Boy, it really looks nice. And if I hadn't already had my heart set on the finish that I was going for, I might think about just utilizing this top right here, blend in some darker portions around the edges so you can't quite see the hard line where veneer hits the regular part of the body. But we're still going to finish as we had thought, but it does look nice, and it makes it really kind of pop out. Even the back that here has multiple grains or multiple segments on it, the grain still looks good. But again, we're going to go with our original thought for finish, and we're going to keep working on it. So I've gone through and I have sanded the back, sides, top, the whole thing with 220 and then to a 320, and it leaves some scratch marks on it. And I picked up a great tip, and I've said this in one of my previous videos. It's some 4.0 steel wool, and I just go and sort of hit all the areas, and all those scratch marks just disappear, and this will put it ready for that base coat. But the steel wool is a key step here to make sure that the finish looks as good as it can. So we're just gonna, it doesn't take much. I just hit all my edges, all my sides with this steel wool, and we'll be in good shape.
So in preparation for setting the neck in, I need to put my bridge posts and tailpiece in so I can put a couple of strings on there and make sure the neck will be straight. So I'm here just cleaning out some of the grain filler and sanding sealer that got down in these holes, hitting it with a file, just cleaning out the edges, and then I will set in the bridge posts into these sleeves here. I'll pound them in, and that way we can put the bridge in and make sure that everything gets in there square. And then, of course, I have this area protected with tape, the socket where the neck will fit in. So I'm just peeling all of this tape off to make sure I expose raw wood. Doing the same thing here on the neck, just so we can have the joint ready to be sealed with that glue. Hitting with a little sandpaper just to rough it up and take out any debris that could have got on there.
Well, the moment of truth is upon me. I am going to set the neck on, glue the joint in. So I've protected the guitar with some cardboard on the side where the clamp will run just so the side won't mar the guitar. I've also taped some cardboard over the back so as the clamp sets in there it won't mar the guitar as well. My secondary clamp that will clamp down from the top on top of the frets. These are rubber padded, but I put some cardboard there also. I have sanded this joint and this inside joint just lightly with some 120 just to make it rougher and get off any kind of factory sealant that would have been on there. As I was putting my sanding sealer on here and my grain filler, I had this and this portion taped off, so there shouldn't be anything on there anyway, but I sanded it after just in case something happened to get on there. So this should give me the best mechanical and chemical adhesion that I could possibly get. So the plan is I'm going to apply the glue. We'll set the neck in. I will clamp it in place. I will string up a high and a low E string just to see if I need to adjust any of the angle of the neck to make sure the strings will lie perfect, because this is your only chance to get it set in there right. We will then clamp here with one clamp and here with the other to set it down in, and then we'll let it sit to cure. So I think we're good to go. Let's see if we can get there.
So here I am applying glue to the neck portion and the body portion, just smearing some in there, wiping it in with my finger to make sure I get a nice even coat. It's sort of a balancing act of making sure I don't have too much or too little. I did have one neck failure in the past, and some of the reason for that could have been too much glue. So it's always just a balancing act for me to figure out what is the appropriate amount.
Okay. Moment of truth. Here we go. Making sure it's set back in there as far as it'll go. I'll come in with my clamp. So here we are here. This string just pulled to the side so I'm not clamping on it to mar up the fret. One clamp here at this base and another clamp here, so you can see two clamps pinching it down. I'd already checked the scale length. It was within reason. I'd put a nut on up here and two tuning keys so that I could put the strings on there to make sure it lined up well, which it did. I'm just going to clean up a little more glue here, but it looks to be set in pretty well, and we will let it sit. I just don't know. Part of me wants to drill a hole right there and put a dowel in there because I'm scarred. But I can't be forever scarred, can I? Yes, I can. Little glue cleanup, and we'll turn the lights out. Here we are a day later. The glue is off. The set is good. Off camera, I was almost embarrassed to say, but I'm so scarred and nervous from the one neck glue fail that I had. So I decided to drill a hole through here and just stick a wooden dowel that I had, and did the same on the other side. So I'm going to sand those off and get them nice and flush and clean, and then it's going to be painted anyway.
So only you and I will know that it's there.
Well, there we go, folks. It got together. We put it together, and we are now really getting close to applying finish to make this thing pop and look like exactly what we wanted it to look like. So, thank you very much for tuning into the episode and staying in here to the end. Again, if you're enjoying this type of content, if you like the videos, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring the bell for future notifications. In our next episode, finish will go on, and this thing will really start to take shape. So please don't miss out. Thank you very much for tuning in. It is always appreciated, and we'll see you next time on JRG Guitars.
JRG Guitar.